Nation, it's Nick Sobriquet from the Haywire camp, all the way there, coming from the UK. We're going to get in touch with your soul in a second and hear about your USTP reflections on what you think happened with the campaign and all of that good stuff in just a second. But I just have to do some quick housekeeping. Our people here, TAFs, people we're working with and coordinating with, TAFs, the Transdisciplinary Agora for the Future discussions, they want us to release some news, so we're going to do that. The TAFs news. The TAFs family wishes our CEO, Christopher K. Haley, a happy birthday today, so happy birthday, Christopher. And registration for TAFs membership is ongoing and it's free. Try to register by checking the website or social media pages. And also they have a call for papers by the 30th of this month. So if you want to get a peer-reviewed paper in there, get in by the 30th of this month. Check out TAPS, great organization. So happy birthday, Christopher. From all the people here at Nation, which is all but me, and that's it. But yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. So, Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to be back on the show, and congratulations on the new channel. You're taking back control. That's what we like to see over here.
Yeah. We could use a Brexit meme, taking back control, but we won't. But thank you very much for that encouragement. It's very nice to be here on a new channel. We can grow out our own community here, have a good time, see what the market is, and put up content that's relevant to transhumanists worldwide, as we all rally to the cause of battling against death, as we say here on Det Nation, putting death out of business. All right, so, yeah, that's it. So, Nick, let's talk about why you're here, and you're here. Well, let's USTP reflections. What do you reckon? Were you surprised and shocked by the results of the election?
So, certainly for people on my network who I'm sharing this out with, the situation is there is a group called the United States Transhumanist-Party who are putting together a run for the White House in 2020. I was supporting my editor for a magazine called Trigger Warning, which I write for, a woman by the name of Rachel Haywire. And we lost out to a guy called Yohanan Ben Zion, who is a guy behind something called the Futurist New Deal, which is something you definitely need to check out as regards a kind of a set of policy kind of ideals. How do I feel? Yeah, I do feel the wrong guy lost because I was behind Rachel, right? So, what are you expecting from me? However, I don't think Yohanan Ben Zion is a terrible choice for a political candidate within that context, and rather than kind of sour grapes, I'd really like to look forward towards how the USTP, although I'm not a member anymore, how they can get those ideas out there, because I think with the introduction of Charlie Cam as the vice president candidate, I think there's more that can be done. But it is what it is still. It happened the way it happened, and I think it happened because of the way it happened. But I do have an article coming out on Trigger Warning, which is the Rachel Haywire's kind of magazine. She runs transgressive art and kind of fringe politics and what have you. I don't want to tear the USTP down tonight. If you want to hear what I think the problems were, go out and go out of your way to read the article that's coming out in Trigger Warning. But like, there's stuff that can be done. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on moving forward. Let's focus on moving forward.
Yeah. This is all encouraging. I enjoy hearing the reflections. I always want to aim to make the party better and improve the party, improve the service efficiency of the party, make people feel like they're involved. So let's hear it. Like, let's hear what you've got to say.
I mean, in regards to what? Like, in regards to improving the party infrastructure,
Yeah,
or
I mean,
in regards
yeah.
to
Why
making
did
it
you leave,
work?
for example?
Like,
Why would you walk out once? Because Haywire put up a great fight. I mean, she put up a magnificent fight. I mean, it was a great fight, and 75 people voted for her directly, but she didn't run a preference campaign. Like, she didn't run a runoff campaign, and so she got a lot of first preference votes, and a lot of people really didn't like her, and a lot of last preference votes, and not much in the middle there. Whereas if you look at Ben Zion's stats, he had a tiered sort of system where people put him in a. Did you look at the results? I mean, he ran a preference system. She didn't. She ran a kind of a divisive campaign where either you really liked her or you really hate her. She didn't fill up that middle vote, which kind of is that a campaign strategy flaw on her part?
so Rachel ran the campaign that she was presented when she first signed up to, which was present a platform by which these ideas might be disseminated to the widest array of people possible. And she did that because that's what Rachel does. She is a performer and a thinker. She might not be a diplomat. She might not be a healer. However, there is fantastic thought. There are thought structures within the party which might have pushed her forward to some kind of prominence by which these ideas could have been brought to a wider kind of audience. However, that's not the decision that they went for. The problem comes down to Ben Zion, right? The problem comes down to Yohanan Ben Zion, the guy that won, and throughout the process, it was made pretty clear that like he was the establishment candidate, and that's great because there needs to be an establishment candidate because there needs to be some kind of dialectic between the A and the B, and that's great. And I just don't think the A had enough to necessarily carry something that will bring ideas to the transhumanist cause. So yeah. If you're asking me whether I think the right guy won, I'm going to say no. However, it's not unsalvageable.
Yeah, because the main like the thing I really liked about Haywire is, and I'm disappointed that. I'm honestly disappointed that she's kind of gone now and she's off.
Sorry. Can I just cut in? My ideal world would have been a Haywire Ben Zion 2020 platform, because they don't necessarily like each other. Hey, it's politics. They don't have to like each other. If Rachel had been given the full kind of go ahead to run the party platform as a transgressive arts kind of media-wide kind of awareness campaign, and then that would have been what we call in marketing a sales funnel. You literally have oh great, what's this banter about? And then those audiences funnel through towards the hard policy which Ben Zion was promoting. And don't get me wrong, like I think Ben Zion, there's a lot about the futurist New Deal. Okay, let's look at it, right? Blockchain voting, voter participation via iVoting. Great, fantastic. However, we had a very similar thing floated in the UK in 2011, the AV voting kind of referendum. We ran a nationwide referendum on that. It turns out nobody cares about voting reform. They should, but they don't. So for Ben Zion to lead his campaign on voting reform, I don't think at this stage would be a wise choice. You know what? I think he should run it on? Drugs and hookers. Ben Zion needs to be like, and this is part of the futurist New Deal. It's in there. He wants to decriminalize and release drug offenders. There was some brief discussion in the Lev Jules podcast that you heard on this channel a little while ago. I think it was Lev who was just like, oh, well, these guys have been in jail, so they've been in No. We need to move away from that. We need to move away from viewing jail as a punishment exercise and move it towards a rehabilitation exercise. So within the futurist New Deal are these fantastic ideas of rehabilitating drug and sex workers, but like Yohanan Ben Zion will make a lot of impact if he turns up to, for example, a body mod or a tattoo convention with a couple of big titty Vegas hookers on each arm. And then once he's brought that in via the showmanship, he then says, yeah, it's actually a really good idea to change the method by which we vote, to change the methodology by which we make voting available. However, I'd love that to be the way he leads the campaign. I don't think it's going to be Steele. And that's why I was behind Rachel, because I thought that would lead.
Yeah, I do agree with this idea, and I think that's why Zoltan encouraged her to come into this in the first place, because it really was Zoltan who gave her the encouragement and the go-ahead to come in. And I mean, he founded the party, and he knows media. He knows media. I mean, the guy's huge. He's a huge media footprint. And you know, he sees in her the skills to put the USTP as a idea, as a transhumanist idea out into the wider public that might be consumable before you get down to the hard policy. Because somebody yelling hard policy at you, you know, it's you know, people get that all day on TV, or you know, they don't have the time or whatever. But somebody, you know, like Haywire, softly sort of seducing you into these ideas sort of is more appealing, because then, yeah, as you say, then you funnel off into the hard policy stuff. You know, and that's what Ben is going to miss, and Ben is going to have to, as you say, find ways to spruce up that image. I mean, he's gonna how do you make hard policy attractive? And as you say, you're gonna have to put him with different scenarios, be that women or flags or props or in a wrestling arena.
I have to say, I'm not being facetious when I say he needs to turn up places with some big titty hookers. Like, let fucking Ben Zion turn up to like a local wrestling show.
Yeah.
With some people saying like, okay, you want to slime yourself from a ladder through a table. That's transhumanism. Let him show up to a Dungeons and Dragons convention and say like, oh, you want to be a wizard casting time warp. That's transhumanism. Let him look critically at how people are envisioning these policies leading back towards their, what you might say, their core demographic, and then really roll with that. However, there are structural problems within the party which encourage him to toe the line towards more of a safe, tame center. Yeah.
And that's what, and you're right, and that's what Zoltan was trying to do with Haywire. He was, you know, there is this structure, and just 1 second.
Take your time. So there's someone at Steele's door, so I thought I might just like avoid dead air. So
no, you're right.
Oh no, no. Okay, that's pure.
Sorry,
pure
but
professionalism.
that was an alarm that I'd set previously, and it was going to go on forever and ever and ever. It wasn't going to stop. So, yeah.
Was that alarm like message Nick Sobriquet and tell him to wake up?
Yeah, show with Nick Sobriquet coming up. Don't forget, that's what it was. It was endless alarm, so I had to turn that off. But no, you're right, and there is this sort of defined role, and the USTP can become very boring very fast when they stick to it, and I think that's why Zoltan encouraged Haywire to come in, because she doesn't care about rules or conventions so much. I mean, she can work within rules, but she's just like, you know, I have a message, and I know how to frame it, and I know how to attract, and she attracted a lot. I mean, again, divisive campaign, but I mean, 75 votes, primary votes, straight off. I mean, she attracted a lot of people. She brought a lot of people to the party, and she really, like, gave the party a lot of energy, because she definitely did work outside of those rules. I think you're 100% right on that. I think that's why she was there, because she has a lot of unique perspective and a unique view, which doesn't just go back to boring, what do you think about space elevators and what do you think about neural lace and all these normal topics, right?
Yeah. So the thing about Rachel is she brings a lot of divergent opinions together, which to my mind was an issue with the party when I first started butting heads with Gennady, which was like there was a centralized kind of issue. I don't want to die vision of transhumanism, which so we talked about this actually very briefly the last time I was on the show, which is the idea of 21st century society trying to define itself by virtue of 20th century philosophies. And all of those 20th century philosophies boil down to I don't want to die, which when you really kind of get to grips with it, which you when you get to grips with what I saw over the last 2 months, it's I don't want my ego to die. So I don't necessarily think the people who have been put in charge of gatekeeping transhumanism understand what humanism is right this second. Because if you're saying, like, I don't want to die, then you're saying, I don't want my ego to die, which really means you're kind of cascading back towards a situation which we've seen manifest. We've seen that absolutely demonstrably, factually true. People getting involved with ego and saying, like, I don't want my ego a certain associated with a certain shall we say cadre or coterie of these big baller capitalists. However, to disentangle that from yourself, a better example. I've heard Yohanan Ben Zion referred to as a Bernie bro. To my mind, he's a Clintonite neoliberal. So something's happening between those two perceptions to make this policy unviable, and I literally think it is populism. I think it is like Ben Zion turning up with, for example, stealing a lot from the Haywire campaign, which is to lean on VR and AR to help people live out their what she called imperialist, almost fascistic fantasies. Well, we either accept that these happen within the human psyche and kind of make allowances for them, or we just pretend they don't happen and then we bang on with what is the futurist new deal. So that's the friction I'm seeing right now. It is between the futurist new deal and a humanist version of transhumanism still. Am I wrong?
I think it's not necessarily about when you talk about, I want my ego, I don't want my ego to die, or I don't want to die because I don't want my ego to die. I think because they're trying to imply it for all people, globally. It's not part of the main thing about transhumanism is it's about enabling technology to proliferate at a low cost that's for everybody. That's accessible to all, that improves the human condition continuously, right? And I don't think that's not a very selfish notion. I think, like, if you were talking about, if there was some scary, this is what I mean. We go on about the fossil fuel industry on this show a lot, as the hoarders of old tech and hoarders of money and hoarders of resources that are holding back a lot of ingenuity in the world. And transhumanists are basically opposed to all that on the whole, because they don't allow the dissemination of these technologies at a rate and a cost that's applicable to all. And also open-ended duration lifespan. It doesn't mean you can't die. It just means you would die when you want to die, when you feel you're ready to go, and that's for everybody. So it gives people an option and a choice, as opposed to one day waking up and your doctor diagnosing you with something and saying that's it. So I don't know about this whole ego thing, but in saying, I do understand what you're talking about when you're talking about the futurist New Deal. There are elements of the futurist New Deal that need to be not pushed so hard. Ben Zion definitely is a Bernie bro. And, he got criticized quite heavily near the end, saying, what party are you running for? Are you running for the Democrats, or are you running for the Transhumanist Party? Because he had so many Bernie bro memes going around, and sharing so much Bernie Sanders propaganda, that people were confused about what what his loyalties were. But I
Can
think
I challenge that? Can I challenge that? I'm not 100% like being a Bernie bro is quite fashionable. Ben Zion would like to see a road towards being fashionable. However, what has the USTP and indeed Ben Zion shown himself to stand for throughout the last 2 months? And that is to be completely beholden to stateless capital, to be completely beholden to interest which will demand a mulligan on the election of ostensibly a Democratic Party. And as I say, when this article that's coming out next week in Trigger Warning kind of really lays bare the mechanisms of the OSTP, I don't think. I think Ben Zion would love himself to be seen as a Bernie bro. However, what he is, he's a Hillary. He's a Hillary hick
well,
because he just
he
can't
argues over and
necessarily.
over again that he's running to the right of himself. So, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he said that. He said, "I'm running to I'm running to the right of myself." Well, if you're running to the right of yourself, then you're outing yourself as a liar. Because if you're a leftist, as I believe he is a almost a Blairite, like a Gore style leftist, in that he wants to kind of like trick people into like almost as if what Extinction Rebellion are doing, but like not as well as what Extinction Rebellion are doing, because that's like the best PR campaign of the last 10 years. But he's trying to present himself as reasonable, as centrist, when really he wants to give people $1,000 a month, which is socialist. So fucking do it, boy. Do it. Be a socialist. Come on. Keep the red flag flying. Plug into movements like Extinction Rebellion, which are kind of crying out for like site level representation right now. So I think if Ben Zion turned up with the transhumanist Cadillac at the next art show, that there would be a lot going on. As I've already said, he needs to really kind of plunder the Haywire campaign for leveraging existing technologies. Because I work for a impact-driven organization called Tech Fugees, which try to match the refugee community up with the tech development community. And what they find is the biggest success comes from working where existing technologies already work. So it's not necessarily the most efficient method to be like, oh, let's get every refugee on the blockchain. No, we need to get every refugee at least using their smartphone to access health, education, science, technology, like stuff that we take for granted over here. But whether he leverages that in a real world kind of way, I'd love to see. I hope he does.
What do you think about Haywire's reaction? What do you think about the way she sort of behaved? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean her general behavior. Do you think that was, after the results, do you think that was okay? Do you think her statements and everything were okay? Do you think how she reacted was okay? Like basically quitting the party, and do you think that was above board and fine? What do you say?
Yes. Yes, I stand behind what Rachel did. I will sail with Rachel on her pirate spaceship unto death or until she gets bored of me. Um, there were serious structural problems highlighted within the party throughout the primary. For example,
Yeah,
number
yeah. Can
one,
you name
there
name
is
one?
no there is no pie. Yeah, I'll name one, and I'll name one. There is no pie. There is Gennady and a male chimp of 1,800 people. So that's not great because I worked within the GDPR, General Data Protection and Regulation Act, which was introduced in 2018 throughout Europe. Literally, like, the law now says that having a fucking male chimp of 1,800 people doesn't mean jack shit. And it was borne out. It was borne out, Steele. The actual voter turnout for the USTP was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% of registered members. Well, that to me is not a mandate. So, right off the bat, we need to be talking about getting active membership out of the realm of a MailChimp. We need to be talking about taking Johann Ben Zion to body mod and tattoo conventions, to sci-fi, to comic book conventions, to literally giving him a stall and saying like, yeah, okay, you read about this stuff. Would you like it to be real life? Because it can be. You can live forever if you come on board. Trying to find that instant hook to make it happen.
Well, yeah,
That's
well,
why I didn't vote for him.
there's complicated reasons why it's not a technical party. Mainly to skirt a lot of.
Oh, hold on. Is it a party though? When if you look at Ben Zion's YouTube channel, The Futurist New Deal, straight off the bat, I saw a video with 0 views, and that had been uploaded for some hours. So I didn't even think YouTube gave you 0 views. I think they would, like, if you uploaded the fucking thing, I would at least think they'd give you a oneer and just like say 1 view. However, like, if this party is putting someone up to run for president, someone needs to give a fuck, and I'm not sure that's happening. So go on with what you were saying, with the proviso that like I have reservations.
Yeah, yeah. It's okay. And I mean, this is part of the issue. They need to work out how to market. I mean, market much better. I mean, this is all a learning experience. It's a huge learning experience. I mean, there's so many. It's still in its it's in draft stage or whatever. But I
The
agree.
party?
Haywire was brought in for this exact 0 view reason, right?
Wait,
The only reason.
are you saying the party? Are you saying the party is in its draft stages,
What I
or
mean is,
the
draft like it's still it's still going through the motions. It's still learning a lot. I mean, we're still 0.0 on the scale, right?
It's 4 years old. It's 4 years old. What was happening? What was being
Yeah, but
done?
this
What
is
was
an
being done to
immortalist
make it a
party.
legitimate?
4 years in the span of forever is pretty young, I'd say.
For somebody dying of starvation or someone who can't afford their insulin, 4 years is a long time. And I
I know.
think
And
if
Mr. Shatke and I, we had a whole show exactly on this, and we should bring him on. Where are you, Shatke? Come on the show. But we were talking about
fuck Shadkey.
But he had no. Listen, he had the same issues as you. He didn't like the mail chip thing. He wanted blockchain voting. He said use it on Steemit. He didn't like the fact that it wasn't a real party. He had the same thing about Haywire. The marketing. He had a whole bunch of concerns as well. Exactly this, almost the same, like parroting you. Because this is a common theme, right? That people are saying let's how can we improve the structural mechanisms of it. I mean, if it wasn't for me jumping on with Detonation and giving these guys some airtime, a lot of people wouldn't have half the experience. I mean, it would have just been a Facebook group fighting with itself. there wouldn't have been candidate profiles. Nobody would have known who it was. They barely could run a. If you go back and watch their debate one, Charles Holzhauer couldn't even get into the actual. They couldn't even get his face into the room where they were trying to have the thing. I mean, it's all. I think it's just a learning process, and it's all something that you have to build up and work on, and which is it's part of the reason I'm having you on. I don't want these ideas to just disappear, because I think these are valuable statements.
Agreed. Agreed 100%. And I will stand behind the contribution that Detonation makes to the transhumanist movement, in that we still had up to a month ago candidates trying to make statements with their phones flopping off the table to hit so the production value that you and Levin Jules and the real the serious heavy hitters, the communicators bring to the table needs to be never underestimated. However, at some point it needs to come down to policy, and I'm looking at Ben Zion, looking at okay, let's look at the Futurist New Deal, internet for all, good. Online learning, the K-12, good. Renewables, the Green New Deal, good, great. However, we're looking at then stuff like I just pulled my ears out. Just pulled my headphones out. Beg your pardon. He targets something like Citizens United, which is then when it gets really meaty, because then we get into the idea of corporations are people and capital is movement, and no, it's absolutely not. That is the bleeding edge. Am I coming through? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming through. That is the bleeding edge.
That is the bleeding edge. That is the bleeding edge at which Ben Zion's message becomes an actual impact-driven statement. The idea that corporations aren't people, and that if you've read Neuromancer by William Gibson, one of the foundations of the cyberpunk movement, that is all about people making deals with the devil. That is to say, corporate-driven AI. And I see with Ben Zion a desire to run that line straight to the point where he comes into conflict with stateless capital, and then he bends straight over. So
this Sorry, I cut you right off there.
No, I was done. You're more interesting.
So this definition of stateless capital is: are you referring to a general economic idea, or are you referring to third parties that are close to the USTP?
Yeah, I'm definitely referring to third parties which are intimately linked with the USTP, and if you want to hang about and read my article, which is coming up on Trigger Warning next week, which is called Damn Dirty. I know you will be, Steele, because you're clued in. But if anybody else want to read the article called Damn Dirty Robots, My 2 Months in the USTP, then you'll maybe take a look at the technocracy, at the elitism, at the... And I hate to sound like a broken record, but yeah, the stateless capital that is at the heart of Ben Zion's platform now. So where are we? We're trying to produce a universal basic income, and that's great, because let me tell you right now, most school kids, they don't know what they're going to do when they leave school for a job, because the jobs that they will work in 10 years don't exist yet. And this was true for me. Like when I left school, like the job that I'm working now didn't exist when I left school. So why don't we give them a UBI just to try and like let them find their place in the free market? Because this is the only place where I intersect with Jonathan Sharkey. I love free markets. unfortunately, there is no free market which is predicated on private ownership. So we clash there. But again, the humanist New Deal, the futurist New Deal, I beg your pardon, does bring that kind of universal baseline of zero citizenship. But is it in the right hands? I don't know.
Socialism is a powerful drug. I'm not a socialist, but socialism is a powerful drug. I mean, if he hits the right notes and he stays consistent on his message, would that be enough to turn some heads?
No. Ben Zion is not a socialist. Let's be clear on this. Ben Zion is not a socialist. He is looking to set up state functions which enable the kind of things which would then bring what he wants to achieve towards the American people. These things could be achieved much quicker, like we're trying to do in the UK at the minute, like Mr. Corbyn's trying to do by devolving power to regional decision-making bodies. That's anathema to Americans. I don't understand why. I need to read more. I need to understand more. But literally, just give decision-making power to communities to decide for communities. That's a no-brainer to me.
Well, the U.S. Constitution, I mean, they have federalism, right? Is it federalism in the United States where each state has their own power to basically do their own thing. Is that what you mean? They can the states have autonomy over their own laws and stuff? Is that what you mean?
I mean, to an extent. However, a state.
Because Americans have that by default. They have that by default, right?
Yeah, they do. But, do they leverage it to the extent where a European state would do so? No, really. If a European state had the autonomy to devolve decision-making power to, say, southern France, southern France is the perfect example. If they had that decision-making power delegated from the central state, then we would not have the Basque region crying out for independence. If you give people enough, my platform boils down to information and consent. If you give people enough knowledge and enough kind of freedom to make their own decisions, generally they'll vote in their own interest. If that doesn't happen, then that's because there are other interests clashing. But great, brilliant. Let's bring the dialectic. Let's actually have the conversation. Let's not flee from big media or whatever, because nowadays big media is us. I wouldn't necessarily choose to live in any other era than now, because we're seeing so much exciting stuff happen. But just let's move away from cowardly liberalism that stops that dialectic taking place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And let's talk about you for a second. So, for example, how did you actually get involved with the USTP? Was it Haywire that brought you into the fold? I mean, or was it you saw the USTP and then you saw she was there? Well, I mean, how did you actually end up in that spot?
So I met Rachel through the Chaos Magic movement. And if you want to join the Chaos Magic group on YouTube, then you're more than welcome to do so, and you're an idiot if you choose to join that. But so I met Rachel through that movement a few years ago, and we kind of shared a general dissatisfaction with grassroots leftism versus grand narrative rightism. Where Rachel's a working class girl. Rachel's a working class Jew girl, who reads a lot, and she's informed and correct on a lot of the big issues. However, she likes to be visibly right. However, I like to be visibly wrong. So I'm happy to take the tank for Rachel on the central statist kind of politics. So to say that where I got involved was like, honestly, I wanted more articles printed, and then I realized that the USTP is kind of flimsy, so therefore I threw myself into that rather than the writing. But I'm happy to entertain the notion of things getting better.
Yeah, well, they are the eternal optimists, and hopefully they stay like that. Yeah, well, that's interesting. Chaos magic movement. I mean, this is the interesting thing that I think that Ben Zion would never think about. These what do you call them? Fringe groups, occult groups.
Oh, the occult. Okay, so yeah. This is the facts. This is the crux of the message. There is a lot going on in society that is not countenanced by Humanity Plus and by Alcor and by
Yeah, this is my point. Yeah, keep going.
and by the happy clappy we are liberals trying to live forever kind of group. I said this to you last time I was on the show, actually. Like, we need to stop judging, 21st century solutions by 20th century standards. And if we look at all the 20th century, paradigms, what do they lack? That is a spiritual element. And you said this in the Levin Jules thing the other day. You think we're moving towards a more spiritual world, and I completely agree that we are. I think I completely agree that we have to, because the human race evolved with a spiritual element. But what we've done for 200 years is ignore what that looks like. So really, if anybody wants to be a driving force in society, stop looking at entrepreneurship, stop looking at media, start looking at what the human spiritual instinct looks like in 2020, 2022, 2025. That's the battleground right now.
Back to Stonehenge.
Let's go.
Let's go back to Stonehenge.
I was at Stonehenge the other week. I don't think necessarily the answer is there. I think it's just me throwing out advice. I think like big symbolic instances are dead. I think we need to go back to a spiritual individualism, but a political collectivism.
Very,
and I don't think that's it.
Very interesting.
Sorry.
No, that's very interesting. What do you think? Would you call yourself a transhumanist, or would you call yourself something else completely?
Oh, I'm completely a transhumanist.
Oh.
I just think that what we consider human has been polluted by corporate capital.
Do you know David Wood in the UK?
The head of the the transhumanist UK party, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of him. I haven't met him, haven't talked to him.
Would you be interested in getting involved with something like that, or do you think that, again, is Haywire a sort of a unique blimp on the transhumanist radar that's attractive to you and a certain type of people? So is David Wood and the UK Transhumanist Party, is that again too policy wonky sort of? I'm just trying to like frame how, because there's a lot of people like you, and there's a heap of them, and I don't want to lose them. I don't want to make them feel ostracized. I just don't know how to communicate with them appropriately. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is a big issue.
Those guys will always find those guys. However, I think the kind of audience that you've struck upon with Detonation, which is a very broad and a very valid audience, needs a little more coaxing. I will not take away anything from what's being done in the transhumanist name in the UK. However, Rachel and myself are on a bit of a different journey.
Yeah,
we will meet somewhere down the road, but for now, let us live it.
Yeah, and that is totally okay. But like, if you know, if there is this group of, because there's this group of 70-something people. This is what I'm trying to say. There's this group of 70-something people that said that they loved Haywire as their first preference. I don't know who. I don't know. Like, what would we do to appeal to that group? And it doesn't mean through detonation. It's like, I mean, as a general thing, if we had to start, if I had to go skydiving, I don't know what would be the message? How would you communicate? How would you say to those people, it's okay, you know, transhumanism is for you in general. Don't sort of flock out into the wilderness, or you know, or if start your own transhumanist party and do your own thing. You know what I mean? How do we keep those? But you know how to communicate. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't mean necessarily.
Do you mean like the people who came on board for the crazy shit and then found like this is the guy?
Yeah. What is unique? There's something about Haywire, particularly Haywire, that's so unique, so special, quite beautiful in a way. It's kind of, but you know, and she connects with, she really connects with this audience, and that audience isn't going away. They're not moving away. They might move away from the USTP, but where are they going? What are they doing? What do they want? What are they searching for? I mean, this is the question. This is what I need to know.
Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. No, like seriously, like it's like almost puerile Rage Against the Machine kind of like anything that you think a technocracy can provide for me. Like,
will I find these people at rock concerts or screamo concerts or something?
So honestly, it needs to be like anything that is like kind of vaguely transhumanist. So like for my mind, it's body mod and tattoo conventions. It's sci-fi conventions.
Because Haywire did the Extreme Futurist Festival, right? So maybe we need to do a festival, something, because you're talking about going to Comic-Con and doing this and that and this and that. It sounds like a festival.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It needs to be like something that is like the outcasts from the outcast. Like, imagine if you just couldn't get enough money to go to Burning Man, but you want to have a big statement. Like, there needs to be like a Pepsi to Burning Man's Coke, and that right there is the USTP's zeitgeist.
So if we started up a transhumanist equivalent of Burning Man, that might keep these people, because you know, because the idea, I mean, the idea of the USTP, whatever, throw that out the window. But the idea is transhumanism, right? And this is a lot of people who are very interested, very engaged, but they're not being communicated to in the correct way. A Burning Man transhumanist event, extreme futurist festival type thing with body piercing, body augmentation, VR, music, you know, occult stuff. You can do all your cards and all that, you know, whatever you want. That would be attractive to these people, yeah?
Facts. Exactly as you described. Yes. Let's do that. And that's the next plateau of the platform.
I love it. Yeah, let's do that. Let's try, because I know I understand.
I'll be there if you do that. Ben Zion, I'm talking to you right now. If you throw a complete freak out party in the middle of nowhere, I'll be there. I'll come there and I'll give some Geordie banter to the proceedings.
Because what I found is people are transitory. Only conservatives are really conservative. Most people are transitory. One day they wake up, they're thinking one thing. The next day they wake up, they're thinking something else. One day they like red as their favorite color, and the next day they like black. I mean, only conservatives consistently, try and hold to the same notions. So even if you do, like, for example, at Burning Man, I would think that it's not the same person every year out of that great pool of people that's always there. There's a quadrant of people, 70% of the people are new people every time. You know what I mean? 30% of the people would be there year over year over year over year. But if we could, maybe this is how we do it. Maybe if we get an extreme futurist festival type event, an FU event with rock music people and DJs that do transhumanist music and all this cool, exciting stuff that you guys are talking about that you guys really want. That's a transitory notion that can fulfill needs of these people who are engaged but disenfranchised.
I don't doubt it. I don't think it'll be rock, but on this
no rock, whatever you guys want.
I shall build my church. Yeah. I think a lot of that kind of where if you build it, they will come kind of mythology has been drilled out of the party because of structural issues, which you'll see in the article. But it's definitely not a thing I want to stand behind, because if people have something that they want to contribute, then like bring. But we just need a certain decision-making body that isn't in the pocket of creepy people.
Nick Sobriquet, you've been a great guest. Is there anything else you wanted to say to people before we go?
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Das Mert, Trasbol will prevail, and definitely subscribe to Detonation, because if this guy will put up with me, then there's definitely some shit that he needs to be putting into the people.
Yeah, thanks for that endorsement, and do sign up, and if you want to watch these shows live and interact, like Mike DeVerde does, he's like fantastic commenter down there. He's a really good guy. Hit the bell. I mean, I don't promote myself too much because I just think you're a smart audience, so you should just know this stuff. But yeah, hit the bell. I mean, hit the bell, and then you'll get all the live stuff. But Nick, it's been fantastic. I'm gonna keep plugging away because I want to. Make transhumanism great again, I guess. But the disenfranchised mob. But I want to do full spectrum to see how we can do this, because the USTP for me is just one vehicle, to make transhumanism great. But let's do other. I'm really open to all these other ideas. Let's do another festival. Let's hit up Haywire and organize a festival, and there's many paths to victory, and I'm willing to hear them all out. So but thank you, and I'm really looking forward to your article. I'll pass. Shatky's watching, so Shatky will probably give you an update on.
Fuck Shatky. Fuck Shatky.
On
Shatky. Like, so communism will win.
Shatky will probably give you an update on what he thinks, because I think you guys actually agree on that stuff within the party. But thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And happy birthday.
Thank you, man.
I know it's a little bit early, but I just wanted to say, because we had a happy birthday at the start of the show, so happy birthday for when that happens. In the coming days. So thank you so much. But Nick Sobriquet from the UK, putting death out of business, Detonation.
Fuck death.
Yeah.